So I have my stuffed elephant here. And, this is a reminder to me of that John Godfrey Sachs poem about the blind men and the elephant. You know how that goes. Let me see. I have it here on the screen, and we can just go ahead and read through it together. It says, "It was 6 men of Indostan to learning much inclined, who went to see the elephant, though all of them were blind, that each by observation might satisfy his mind." And you know the rest of the story. How it goes is that they groped about the elephant. One guy thought the elephant was a wall. Another guy thought the elephant was a spear. Another guy thought the elephant was a snake. And then another one thought it was a tree. And another one thought it was a fan because he grabbed a hold of the ear. And another one thought it was a rope because he grabbed a hold of the tail. And so, the whole point of that poem is that when it comes to theological matters, that a lot of people think that they understand the ultimate reality, but really what they're doing is only grasping a part of that. And so that poses a question, actually it poses a problem for Christians who talk about Christian particularism or Christian exclusivism. And we're going to be talking about that topic today in this episode of 5 good reasons why God exists. I'm Kerry Decker, your host. We'll be right back. My guest with me today is Raul. Let's see if I'm going to get it right. Is that Raul Jaramillo? Did I get that close?
Yeah. You nailed it. Yeah, good to be with you, Kerry.
My gringo tongue sometimes doesn't cooperate with my desire to say the name right. So you're the regional director in Latin America for Reasonable Faith. And so tell us a little bit about your job. What do you do? What's your role with Reasonable Faith as far as what does a regional director do?
Well, actually, I got this position 8 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
It has been an adventure, and I'm really excited about this. Reasonable Faith, which is a ministry of Dr. William Lane Craig, looks to expand the reach of apologetics into the public arena so we can defend the Christian worldview against objections and strengthen the believers in matters of defending the core doctrines of biblical Christianity. And this ministry has made it its mission to reach the local church through chapters. And Latin America is living an expansion of the chapters right now, which I'm pretty excited about because more chapters come on in Mexico, Argentina, Chile, and all these regions that originally had little or no interaction with apologetic material. So I'm in charge of them. I provide them books, help them out. We recently had a Reasonable Faith event in Mérida, Yucatan, where we presented a defense of the Christian faith in a public school and apologetic training in a local church down in that state. So that is one of the things that I do. I'm pretty excited about it. And I'm also in charge of the certification process for Spanish-speaking people with the material of Dr. William Lane Craig, both in Latin America and in Spain.
Cool.
And also have some chapters in Brazil that speak Portuguese.
Yeah.
So it's really, really amazing what the Lord is doing in this region.
Well, it sounds like an exciting work that you're doing. And we want to spend a little bit of time today talking about this whole idea of Christian particularism or exclusivism. I think it would be safe to say this, that all religions have some truth in them. So why do you think yours is the only way?
Well, that is a good question, Kerry. And before answering it, I would like to mention that it's very curious how it is a Christian that takes a hit. It is a Christian that is accused of being the intolerant one, to proclaim that he's the only one that has the truth, and he's pointed out to. But the truth is that all religions, if not most of them, have this exclusivistic worldview.
Yeah.
They all reject one another because they have core tenets within them that exclude the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's some problems with Christian particularism that permeate the whole worldview. It is often claimed that all religions are fundamentally the same and only superficially different. But the answer is no. They are fundamentally different and only superficially, at best, the same, because they all make claims about reality. They all make claims about how the world or the universe actually is. And then the question becomes, how do we test this? How do we know which worldview or which religion is true? And when philosophers discuss about this, there are two theories of truth that come into the discussion. Mm-hmm. The correspondence theory of truth and the coherence theory of truth.
All right, you're going to have to unpack what that means now.
Of course. Very briefly, the correspondence theory of truth tells us that a claim must correspond with the objective facts or empirical facts we have in front of us, how the reality is, right? In contrast, the coherence theory of truth, it tells us that the claims within a worldview or within a system of beliefs must be logically consistent. That is, they cannot contradict one another. So when one studies the worldviews out there, one will eventually find that Christianity is the only worldview that meets this criteria. Mm-hmm. And I would dare to say it surpasses their criteria in contrast with the rest of its rivals. Yeah. The person of Jesus stands above and beyond the rest of the world leaders and religious leaders by claiming not only that he knew the way, but that he was the way.
So, Raul, if I'm understanding you correctly, it's your claim that Jesus stands above all the other religious leaders, not only in the world, but in all of history. Maybe you can kind of elaborate on that concept for us for a moment.
Sure. Well, his personal understanding of himself, of who he was as the revelation of God, the Son of God that had come to the world to reveal how God is and who God is. He proclaimed to be the way, the truth, and the light. Not only one of the ways, and he didn't claim that he knew a way to God, he claimed he was the way to God. Yeah. And he proved this by his resurrection. Mm-hmm. The resurrection of Jesus is a historical event that we can investigate. And once one realizes that this is the greatest proof of Christianity, one would realize that it's not only a proof of Christianity, it's a rebuttal to the rest of the worldviews out there. Yeah. So that is Jesus is so exceptional.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I'm going to back up for a moment, because earlier on in our conversation, we were talking about how that all religions may have some truth, and that all religions, it's my belief that all religions actually have an exclusivistic point of view. Even the religions that say all religions, all paths lead to God, essentially are saying this, that if you believe there's only one path that leads to God, you're wrong. So
Yeah, exactly.
so everybody excludes somebody. You can't make a religious claim without being exclusive. So why isn't this arrogant? Why aren't you arrogant for believing that Christianity is the only way?
Well, first of all, before unpacking this question, just because someone is arrogant or sounds arrogant doesn't mean his claims are false, right? Mm-hmm. Because just by telling somebody is arrogant or impolite or politically incorrect, that is just irrelevant whether his claim is true or it's false. What we ought to ask is he right or is he wrong?
Yeah,
and
okay.
With respect to the question, I don't believe truth is arrogant. When somebody makes a claim, mathematical truths, scientific truths, historical truths, we don't say that they are arrogant. As you mentioned, every time we say some view, some claim is true, by definition, we're excluding the rest of the answers, the rest of the hypothesis as false. But we don't say people are arrogant just when they do that.
Yeah.
And the question can be rephrased. Well, isn't it arrogant to claim that you have the truth? Isn't it arrogant to say this? I suppose you could say that. But as you mentioned, this is a problem for the exponent of the pluralistic worldview as well.
Yeah.
Because he's making a knowledge claim, just as the Christian is.
Everybody's making a knowledge claim.
Exactly.
Actually, everybody's making a knowledge claim, even the agnostic.
Exactly.
When the agnostic says is that no one can know that there's God, that God exists, that's really making a knowledge claim about the existence of God.
Exactly. He's making a true statement that he believes to be true, that is an objective fact about reality. Mm-hmm. Namely, that we can know about God, or in the case of the pluralist, that all religions have some truth in them, or that no religion has the exclusive truth about God.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, he's excluding at least Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, because all three are exclusivistic religions. And when the pluralist says, no, all religions have truth in them, he's telling Christianity is wrong. He's telling Judaism is wrong. Buddhism is wrong. And how is that not arrogant as well? And you can see that in the story you mentioned at the beginning of the show. I've read versions of this story where the blind men are discussing this so heatedly that they wake up the owner of the elephant. And usually it's the prince or something like that. And he is annoyed that he was woken up, so he goes out and goes to the balcony and is able to see everything that's going down there. And he tells them, hey, you know what? You guys are wrong because you don't see the whole picture. Yeah. If each and every one of you put together what you knew, then you would realize that the elephant, it's a huge animal and it has lots of parts and et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Who represents who in this story?
Yeah.
Well, the blind men are supposed to be the Christian, the Buddhist, the Muslim, the Jew, the Hindu, even the atheist and the agnostic could be put there.
Sure.
But who is a pluralist?
Mm-hmm.
He can't be one of the blind men, right?
Yeah.
No. He might be the prince, the owner of the elephant, the one that has the objective view about reality. And my question is, well, how is that not arrogant?
Yeah. Now, you're not saying that the prince is the guy that has the big picture. You're just saying, let's suppose that he is. And he's still claiming that he knows the truth and everybody else is in error, right?
Exactly. He's making a truth claim, and by definition, he's telling that the other claims, that the other religions and the other worldviews are wrong.
Yeah.
So the sword cuts both ways, basically. The accusation he's presenting to the Christian can be applied to him as well. Let me add something more about this. This idea of pluralism is just a Western concept. It's not found, it's in the tenets of the Eastern religions or or any religion at all, actually, because as I mentioned at the beginning, each worldview, each religion has its basic tenets, and people understand this. If you take this idea to the Hindu, to the Muslim, they would just be appalled of this. They won't understand you. It's just something that we invented at the West, Canada, United States, Europe, Mexico, where we want to force people to adopt this pluralistic worldview, which is just inconsistent. The only way you can make all religions cohere with one another is that if you remove its basic core doctrines of each and just like make a mix of the superficial and secondary doctrines each hold. So and you're just undermining each religion by itself. So you're destroying the religious beliefs in the process. And the third problem is an internal contradiction within pluralism, because it is often claimed that nobody has a right to tell the other persons how to practice their religion. Person is free or must be free to practice their religion, and that the idea of evangelism, sharing your religion, trying to win converts, it's just intolerance, or it's wrong. But you know what? When the pluralist says this, when the religious pluralist wants to limit my beliefs to myself and prohibit me to share my faith, he's doing exactly that. He's telling me how to practice my faith. He's putting limits on my own faith. And the thing is that Christianity is not the only religion that has the mandate to win converts. At least Islam has that mandate as well. So in the name of tolerance, the religious pluralist becomes the most intolerant of all, because he's forbidden me to practice my religion. So it's pure logical inconsistency when one put this to the test.
Well, I find that oftentimes throwing out these charges against these personal attacks, saying, oh, you're arrogant or you're intolerant, it really doesn't do anything to advance the discussion about the facts that we're examining. It's just a personal attack, and it really doesn't help answer the questions that we're looking at. I do have a question for you, however.
Okay.
And is that if you were born in Saudi Arabia, you'd probably be a Muslim. If you were born in India, you'd probably be a Hindu. And if you were born in Thailand, you'd probably be a Buddhist. So why is it that that doesn't apply to you? As a Christian, you were born in Mexico and you were taught Christian concepts from a very early age, and it's just natural that you think you're right and everybody else is wrong.
Well, that's true. I was born in a Christian country, and probably that's why I hold to this Christian doctrines. But the person putting forward the question, if it's an unbeliever or the Christian particularist, he doesn't notice that this question applies to him as well, right? Because what happens if you ask him, well, what if you were born in Saudi Arabia? He would also probably be a Muslim, right? He won't be a non-believer. He wouldn't be a Christian pluralist. He would also be a Muslim. So it's very interesting for me how people don't realize how bad this objection it is, because it basically undermines itself. And not only this is a textbook example of what is called the genetic fallacy.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard about that?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. Explain it for us, please.
Yeah, sure. The genetic fallacy, it's when somebody tries to undermine or refute an idea or a belief by pointing how it was originated or how it came to be held. Yeah. That is, if somebody was born in a Christian country, then it's more likely that they will be Christian.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? That doesn't do anything to speak about the truth or falsehood of the worldview, right? Because Christianity is independent of me. The truth about the Christian worldview, it's completely irrelevant on how I came to believe this. And it's the same thing about many of the facts, right? Because you can also turn it around and make the question, well, if you were born hundreds of years ago in probably a different country, you would believe the earth is flat.
Right?
And that's a true statement.
Or you can actually boomerang it this way and say, that you were born in the secular West, and that's why you're an atheist.
Exactly. He's not unbiased. He's not completely disconnected from any truth that their parents might have told him.
Cultural influences
religious
or whatever.
Content. Exactly. No, and we come again to this question about arrogance. Because usually people claim that they are unbiased, they don't have any presuppositions, and that's just completely untrue. Nobody is completely unbiased. But we can be objective seekers and try to put everything to the test with for example, the correspondence and the coherence theory of truth that I mentioned briefly earlier.
We're almost out of time here, Raul. And before we close, there's a couple things I'd like to ask you. And one is just simply this, is that is there anything that would cause you to change your mind about the truth of Christianity?
To be honest, Carrie, I don't know. But I don't think that's a problem for me. Because many things could or would make me lose my faith or change my mind. But why is that a problem? Because that's a question about my personal psychology. It's about my mind. It's about my reasons. It doesn't have anything to do with, again, objective reality. Christianity is independent if I have good reasons to believe it, or if I had bad reasons to believe it, and then eventually something causes me to lose my faith. That's completely irrelevant on whether Christianity is true. The real question we must be asking is, what should make me lose my faith? Because that question actually deals with the evidence. What would be a proof sufficient to demonstrate that Christianity is false? And dealing with that question, I would say if somebody was able to prove that God did not exist or that Jesus did not rise from the dead, then Christianity would be falsified. That is what the Apostle Paul said, that if Christ has not been raised, our preaching is in vain and we are still in our sins. But with respect to the first question, this is often put as a trick question, trying to prove that the Christian is closed-minded, that nothing can make them change their mind, and no matter how much evidence there is, that we will always believe Christianity is true. But actually, I don't think that's the case, because the Christian must be open to the evidence and to examine the evidence. And I'm very confident that the evidence points to the truth of the Christian religion, of the teachings of Jesus and his resurrection.
I always like to say that the truth invites investigation. And so we really, as Christians, we have nothing to fear from the truth. And I believe that if we're open to having our beliefs about reality challenged and investigated, then that should go both ways, and that other folks should be open about having their basic beliefs about reality subject to question and challenged along the way too. Raul, before we wrap up, are there any additional thoughts that you'd like to share with us before we close?
Well, for example, I have a friend that believes that because all religions have these truth claims, and they all have apologists and they all have defenders, then that makes them all false.
It cancels them out, yeah. Okay.
Cancels them out, yeah. But I don't think that's a right conclusion. What that should lead us to is not that all religions are false, but that we must be persistent. We must be careful. We must be diligent in our search for truth.
Yeah.
It shouldn't make us deny everything, because that eventually would make us deny knowledge itself. I've had discussions with him that basically would make us unreasonable to hold any belief.
Yeah.
So it is important to discover truth. That is one of the most important things that we ought to do, because as humans, we are rational beings and we like to discover things. So at most, the problem of the amount of religions and amount of worldviews that are out there shouldn't make us unease on which position to hold, but it should make us careful and intelligent on how we are investigating each worldview.
Exactly. Hey, Raul, I really appreciate your spirit, and I appreciate you giving some deep thoughts to this topic of why God exists and why we can be sure that Christianity points to the truth about God. And so I appreciate you spending some time with me today on that topic. And so hopefully we'll be able to have a chance to talk some more down the road on some of these topics.
I'm open to it. It's really fun to be here.
You know, there is plenty of great conversations that happen here on 5 good reasons why God exists. And I enjoy talking with each one of our presenters, and hopefully that you've been challenged in your own thinking too. So keep exploring the various talks that come up on this summit. We'll see you next time.